from a, oh, wow. Dandy.
Welcome to the conference assistant. Enter and access. You are the first person in this conference. Please stay on the line. To turn off the music,
You heard anything there? No one did.
I mean, so potentially you could put in one with Navigator.
Kind of what I was thinking. Might move that around until give them an opportunity to respond.
Sure.
Before we take that up.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a gentleman that sent us the email. Cooter. Spotty's on the line too. Zoom's working.
Yeah.
Sounds like our conference call's working. That's good.
You don't like me.
Well, it is 9 a.m. I will call the November 6th meeting of the Floyd County Board of Supervisors to order. Welcome all our guests who are in the meeting room today and those who have joined us on the Zoom call, and anyone who's on the conference call-in call line. Thank you for joining us. The first item on our agenda is approving the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
It's been a motion by Supervisor Kiefer, seconded by Jorgensen, to approve the agenda as presented. Those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried. Just as a mention, we have copies of the agenda. They're on the front table. If you'd like to get one of those, you can kind of follow along. We might have to kind of not take them in the order that they're in there for reasons that I know some people can't come here till 10 o'clock, so that's the agenda, and there's also a copy of the resolution 4223 that we'll be considering sometime later during this meeting. So those are on the table if you'd like one. The second item is public comment. If anyone who's in attendance today would like to make a public comment, if it's on the agenda, we'd like you to wait until we come to that issue on the agenda to discuss it with us. Does anyone like to make a public comment on the conference call-in line? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 3, which is review and action regarding the approval of the October 30th, 2023 Board of Supervisors minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the October 23 Board of Supervisor minutes.
A second.
I have a motion by Supervisor Jorgensen, seconded by Kiefer, to approve the October 30th minutes of the Board of Supervisors. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried. Item 4, review action regarding approval of the claims.
I'll make a motion to approve the claims.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Supervisor Kiefer, seconded by Supervisor Jorgensen to approve the claims as presented. Further discussion? None? Hearing none, those in favor of approving the claims, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried. Okay, item 5, updates on various boards, commissions, and activities since the last meeting.
Haven't had any commission meetings, plenty of, citizen contact conversations. I shouldn't say plenty, but, daily. Other than that, you know, real around stuff.
I attended a Samuel's group meeting with Gloria regarding updates on the courthouse and law enforcement center. Also attended 9/11 board and 9/11 advisory committee on our radio project and updating 9/11. So that project is coming along. Looking at some property west of Rockford near the fossil park to put a tower up. Waiting to see from Motorola how big a footprint they actually need, so they know how much ground we need to buy, but that's moving along. So, and that's all I had.
Is that property west of Rockford?
Yeah, it borders the western edge of the fossil park. Next property to the west.
I see when I go by that way, there's some property for sale on the south side of the road. That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, this is on the north side.
I didn't,
What was that?
are they looking at?
Well, if one doesn't work out, yeah, we prefer the one on the north side, but if that doesn't work out, then we'll listen with the landowner on the south side.
Good. All right. I spent a lot of time working on the resolution 4223 that is on our agenda for review and action today. There were a lot of revisions of this. Took input from a lot of people. And the attorney Pritchard was involved in this, as was Auditor Carr. I consulted with some people I knew from the legislature who have worked on renewable energy issues. A gentleman named Rand Fisher, who heads up the Center for Infrastructure and Economic Development. Swati Dandekar, Representative Swati Dandekar, and I worked together on issues in the Iowa House, and she's heading up a group that is working with renewable energy projects throughout eastern Iowa, and so I consulted with her. I talked to the auditors in Franklin County regarding how they proposed a moratorium on wind turbines. I consulted with the head of the Planning and Zoning Commission in Lynn County on how they approached a moratorium. In their case, it was on solar projects, and they happened to do it by resolution. And I visited with, of course, John Robbins regarding that same issue and how it was done in Saragordo County. And so when we get to it, there's a lot of input that's been involved in that, and that's basically what my work was this week. Item 6, update on law enforcement center courthouse project. Dennis, you mentioned you had a meeting. That's good. How did things go?
Well, the list of unfinished things grew by 9, I think, right? Gloria? So they're minor things, but they just have to be completed. Anywhere from some flooring, latches, cells in the law enforcement center, the bollard out here in front. Just a lot of minor things, but it's not easy to get them taken care of, quite honestly. So maybe no, I haven't contacted them. No,
I think at the meeting you said you were gonna.
and I will. Okay.
Last year.
So if you can add anything, Gloria.
Hard to hear.
addressing this.
Can you speak up a little bit, Kurt?
As somebody just said something on the conference.
I didn't hear.
So I don't know that I have any more to add there. We did another, Dennis wasn't able to do the walk around again, but we did another walk around. I said we added more things to the list. They have, Young Plumbing went around on a walkthrough with us, as well as Seth from Dean Schneider. And they found lots of air leaks with the HVAC system that Young Plumbing's gonna come back for and try to remedy those air leaks. There's just lots of things that have like cleanups. The wall in here in the board office, that one is kind of up on in the air, who's going to do it. My last question to that was, the project didn't call for replacing a ceiling. And I said, well, did the project call for demolishing the ceiling? And so they're gonna check specifications, because if it didn't call for demolishing and they demolished it, then they should still have to fix it because they demolished and it wasn't in the specs, which I think is probably the result of that. So I don't know if he's gonna fix that yet. We did talk about the inefficiencies that were made out of that room. There's no light in that back room area. We talked about some ideas of maybe just should be taken out that wall so you have a bigger area in the front part of that room. And because the back part is pretty useless.
That's the first back part behind the first wall, not the
Yes.
room.
Where the unit hangs
Right,
down on the
okay.
ceiling, yeah, in the very first room, that wall could be pushed back and just have a transfer for, the airflow into a larger front room. Hindsight is that they should have probably put that unit in the back room, and you could have had two nicer rooms in the south side of the building. But that's too late for that. But Young Plumbing recognized several things with not finishing, where they removed boilers and plaster on walls. And Jason took pictures, lots of pictures of things, and I told them that potentially we're looking at an open house here, which I presume you're probably gonna talk about that at tomorrow's department head meeting maybe as well. November, December, it'd be nice to get something, an open house going on.
There was some discussion also to try to quiet this room down here so that that noise isn't gonna go away, but they think there's maybe some ways that they can use noise. So,
Yeah, it was something about the size of the motor on here.
and I'm not sure.
It's oversized for it, so if it was size for the unit, it probably would be less noisy as well. Otherwise, it didn't sound very promising. And if you put a different motor on it, I'm sure that's at our expense, not at project. Anyway.
Is there a reason why the oversized motor was put on in the beginning?
Actually, they want to put a bigger one.
Well, they want to put a bigger one.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's smaller, I'm sorry.
Prohaska designed it that way.
I don't think work has begun yet on the boilers. House or the mechanical one yet.
Did you ever get back up, Jason?
No.
Those plans? Okay. I think I hate to say it, but I think we're probably gonna miss our time for getting the concrete work done out here. The city's supposed to be working up some specifications for the concrete provider on the ADA. So no longer whether we'll hold out, if we can get it done, we'll get it done, that would be nice.
Pay app 45 for 15 $55,648.47. Do what's in that payout, please.
That's all good. And all I have.
There's a long description of services. So this is finally ready to be approved.
You can see on page 10, most of it is retainage. And then just some project work that was completed. Did learn that, I think saying on the phone call last week about Noah, or about Sweeper. Sweeper was,
Sweeper wanted to come back and finish their work,
yeah,
and after ignoring us all summer,
well, since
in
January,
January.
I received a couple notices that their bond was being tapped.
For some money, probably.
So they were supposed to send parts that be used by Noah, who's taken over for Sweeper's work. As of Tuesday, those parts hadn't come in yet.
Mostly for the cells.
Yeah, there's some cells that don't have latches and locks on the doors yet, they can't use them.
It's pretty much third and fourth floor detention areas that the inmates come up from the jail and wait for court. It's those, the door systems on that. Most of it.
I'll make a motion to approve pay app number 45.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Supervisor Kiefer.
Will we pay that with ARPA funds and? Okay.
To pay, app 45, approve app, pay app 45 for $55,648.47 using the ARPA fund.
Yep.
Was a motion by Supervisor Keepers. Second?
Second.
Second by Supervisor Jorgensen. Further discussion? Those in favor of the motion to approve pay app number 45, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried. All right. Yeah. Moving on to item 7, which is review and action regarding an application from the Floyd County Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition for the use of opioid settlement funds. And we have Gail Burgess, the director of the Floyd County Public Health Care, with us today. She's representing the coalition. In your packet, it talked about how this first proposal to spend some of the opioid funds that we have, they'd like to use. So Gail, would you give us some more information about this proposed use of the opioid funds?
So what the prevention group wants to do is do to start off with a mass media campaign. Then go, put some billboards out, some messaging on the radio, ads that continuously run on the radio for a specific period of time. I don't remember what that time frame is. It's listed there in the template or the proposal that you've been given. And they also want to get into schools and focus on those in junior and senior high. What I try to do with this group, Drew, is really not just Charles City schools. We want to reach out to Rockford and North Springs, Central Springs, and focus on them too. So that's always kind of my push with this group too. It tends to get really Charles City focused. So they want to do some messaging within the school and see how that goes. And interviews on KCHA, those are the primarily anti-stigma messaging throughout the year. And let's see, prevention and resource messaging throughout the school buildings with participating school districts. And we do have the Jeremiah Bliss, the principal at Charles City Community Schools, does attend these, but it's getting those outside accounts to get there and get some information to us is kind of a struggle, but, so it's a total of $3,776, which is pretty minimal, I think, compared to the amount of settlement funds that the counties are getting. So this is where we want to start. We have some other ideas down the road too, working with some of the providers out of the clinics. We're getting another proposal ready with them. We'll be coming to you with that, but this is our starting point, just some messaging and kind of see where that takes us. And I didn't know if, the last time we talked about having a county coalition to go to present these to, but I don't know if that's still kind of the plan, or if you just want me to keep bringing it to the board.
As of today, we haven't created that
Right.
county-wide coalition, so we're glad that that you and this group has brought forward something to us. I guess that's the first step, and appreciate that. I know these type of activities might sound like, they're just PR campaigns, but really it's a lot more when they're focused to the groups that we're focusing here. I spent a couple of days last week substituting at the high school, and there was a whole period devoted to mental health and drug usage and things that we can do, and you have to talk about it. You have to bring it up. It's just not something that's hidden. So I think this is a good start. I really do. I'm appreciative of your effort here, and looks like something we can build on. You've got a pretty broad-based group already.
Very much, yeah, we got a good group going, so just trying to find those from outside of Charles City to join us. It's gonna struggle a little bit, so.
Yeah,
keep
I
trying.
understand. Undercard, what was the total amount of money that's in the opioid funds at this time?
I think at this time, we're around 60,000.
And this money, we don't want to keep in a fund to keep building, and we want to use it. Because there's certain things that we can use it for.
And I know just from one settlement alone, we're supposed to get, I think in the neighborhood of 135,000 or something like that. So we've got plenty of money to come in, and a lot of it has specific restrictions on how to use it. And I would presume Randy Tilt is the county's coordinator, or not sure what you want to call it, for funds. Might have a better handle on that. I can tell you that. $65,508.56 right now.
And wasn't there a reporting period that the Assistant County Attorney Tilton was to report back on regarding these funds
Yeah,
eventually?
I found some notes on that over the weekend. It's December 1st.
December 1st.
Yeah.
All right, well, they'd be conferring with him to make sure that those updates are made.
I have,
Oh, you have.
I mentioned it to Todd Pritchard in the last month or so.
Okay. Well, it's coming up pretty fast, so. Members of the board, what do you think of this proposal from the Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition?
I think it's probably a good pathway to be on. I'm curious how it is determined where the money goes. We obviously have citizens that attend schools outside of the county. We have brick and mortar inside the county. It looks like you're hitting the structures that are within the county, or how do you determine where that money goes?
Well, it's whoever brings a proposal to the coalition. I mean, everyone that throughout the county is invited to come to the coalition. Now, if they come or not, that's up to them, of course. But if they come to us with a proposal, I'll bring it to the board and that's where it's determined. I have no say in where that money goes or how that money is spent. All I can do is bring it to the board, so. And it's pretty strict. There is a form that has been given of what it can be used for. It has to be very opioid specific. But our goal is to be opioid specific, but also tie in all other drugs and substances, so.
Okay,
That's okay, I'll just
Yeah, go
add
ahead.
that Floyd County has 6 school districts, and so if any one of them were to present something, I don't know why we couldn't support something, but I would think we're control county of 2 of the 6 school districts. So I would think they're probably working with the other counties that are the control counties. But, and I do know if we feel we don't know what to do with all of this money, which is a very likely potential. There, ISAC has a form that if there's another county that you want to pair up with, and they've got, like, let's say Sarasota County has a huge marketing plan for opioid TV ads, and however they, maybe have something more. The board could allocate some of that money to another county as well.
probably open to public and private schools,
Oh, I don't think there's not a limit to schools.
right?
I can imagine there's lots of nonprofits that,
Yeah, it could be a nonprofit, it could be just a community group, it could be whoever has an idea.
it could be, well, originally when we first talking about this, we talked about the, what is the Knox?
Oh, naloxone,
Yeah,
yeah, but that's already.
but now that's free. So, we're talked about a lot of things in the past on what are we gonna use all this money for? If, just as this would be before you all came on, Lake County originally didn't sign up for this because the county attorney's office at the time said, we haven't seen epidemic issues in our county. So originally we didn't sign on. And then at a later point, ISAC suggested that all counties might want to sign in on these anyway. So we were a late sign on to it. There's a lot of money, and some of them there's very numerous settlements, and some of them have deadlines when the money has to be used by, or you have to send it back. So there's definitely, that's something Randy's gonna have to be versed in to know which pocket to be used first for reporting. I don't know if it's the state or federal has a website that all the reporting is done on, but you have to be specific to which settlement, because again, it's settlements from numerous pharmaceuticals, other agencies that have settled for us to receive payments.
Any further questions regarding the proposal?
I have none.
I'd entertain a motion to approve the proposal from the Substance Abuse Prevention Council Coalition for the use of opioid settlement.
I'll make that motion.
Can you try the number to it?
What did you say, it's 3,000?
$3,776.50.
But in the amount of 3,750
$776.
cents.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Supervisor Jorgensen, second by Supervisor Kiefer to approve appropriation of $3,776.15 from the opioid
50.
settlement fund.
50 cents.
50 cents?
Instead of 15.
Correct. We got it. All right, all good. For their proposal to start this campaign, as we discussed. Is there further discussion? Any comments from anyone listening? Is this something you ever heard about? I'm hoping you probably have heard about it. It affects our country a lot, and it's one good step to move forward, and I'm supportive of these efforts. Thank you for bringing it to us.
Mark,
Yes, who's this?
Brandy Molitor. Hey, I'm just sending an email. And you're right about the subbing opportunity and into the schools. And Cindy, I included you to help
All right, thank you. Further comments? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Moving to agenda item 8, which is review and action regarding resolution 4223. That resolution, there's a copy here, and I spoke to it a little bit earlier about some of the work we did last week to write this up and present it to the board for your consideration. So the resolution itself provides a lot of intent language as to what has happened to this date. How did we get where we're at today? And it's fairly specific. It talks about presentations that we've had from Next Era Energy, from Ember Energy, regarding their projects that are ongoing in Floyd County, followed by a petition we had from 72 landowners who sought a moratorium on the consideration of wind turbine projects, and they also included an update to our existing county ordinance regarding those wind projects. So it has that intent language in there. It is written, so I think most people hopefully would agree with what we're trying to say in this intent language. What it really gets to is it includes the two agreements that NIACOG has been working with us. There are two agreements that we talked about last week. They were brought and altered also during the week. And there are two separate agreements. And one is for the services that NIACOG would provide to develop a update to our utility scale wind turbine ordinance and battery storage. And then a separate agreement for NIACOG services to update and include a utility scale solar ordinance in our review. So there are two separate agreements to that. And so that's included in this resolution. And so perhaps I think that would be a good place to start. What is it we're actually agreeing to? What are we, NIACOG has offered to provide these services for us at a cost. And I believe we have the planner from NIACOG on the line, John Robbins. And John, if you could be as specific as you can as to how much these services will cost, and if you have any recommendation, do we do them both now? Do we do one first? How long will this process take? I'll just turn the floor over to you to explain these agreements that the board is considering in this resolution.
Thank you. Can you hear me all right?
All right, just go ahead and speak up because we have quite a few people in the room.
Sure. So in the two agreements, cost and essentially process are proposed to be identical. The first part would be services, items 1 through 5 that you see in the scope of services that were in the packet, would be the procedures to go through a standard zoning ordinance update. So that's reviewed.
Could you read those, or would you like me to? What are those 5 things that NIACOG is going to do in this agreement?
Certainly. So items 1 through 5 in scope of services, we'll just say this is the first agreement for utility scale wind and battery storage.
Excuse me, John,
yes.
we're having people that can't hear it in the room, so this is kind of the meat and potatoes part of this, so we want to make sure that everybody is aware of it. They don't have copies of these agreements in front of them. Go ahead, try it again.
Sure. So this is in section 2, scope of services in the proposed agreement for amending the zoning ordinance related to utility scale wind energy development and battery storage. Items 1 through 5 would be the steps for basically a standard ordinance amendment. So item 1, work with staff, the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the County Board of Supervisors to prepare a draft zoning ordinance amendment. Item 2, conduct appropriate research to address potential requirements for said uses. So that's your utility scale wind and battery storage. Item 3, prepare accompanying public notices, resolutions, and other supplementary documents related to the process of adopting the ordinance amendment. Item 4, prepare a final zoning ordinance amendment for presentation to the Planning and Zoning Commission for recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. Item 5, participate at required public hearings on the adoption of the ordinance for up to 3 readings. And then there's additional services that are proposed due to the scale.
Okay, I'm gonna, excuse me, John. I
Yes.
just want to, as we're going through it, so everybody understands, and for those 5 things you just mentioned, the contract calls for a payment of $2,000 tonight. That's a base payment of $2,000.
Yes.
Now go on to numbers 6 and 7, please.
Certainly. So item 6, due to the nature and scale of these types of uses, we generally propose to go through additional steps to get further public input and so forth, and just become more educated on utility scale wind energy and so forth. Item 6, attend a maximum of 3 public open houses or listening sessions for the Planning and Zoning Commission and or Board of Supervisors to solicit views from local residents and other stakeholders on issues, opportunities, and concerns related to the purpose of the ordinance amendment. So that's an opportunity to basically just get public input, to gather the types of issues, support, concerns that the public may have, just for the Board of Supervisors and Planning and Zoning Commission to listen to see what sort of things should be addressed.
So
yes.
what you're proposing there is either a meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission and or the Board of Supervisors for these listening sessions, where we have a formal meeting where citizens of the county can come in and suggest well, it's really a listening session. They can say anything they want regarding the update of a proposed ordinance, and the stakeholders, the renewable energy companies involved could also come in and make presentations regarding what they'd like to see in an ordinance rewrite. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, we really want to see the nature of requirements and, topics that related to those types of issues that the public or developers would like to address.
And so you're proposing a maximum of 3 of those, and what's the cost of those?
So those would be at $200 a piece, essentially, staff time and that sort of thing.
And that's for you to attend them, correct?
Correct.
Right.
So that'd be sort of a base number of listening sessions. Item 7, conduct a maximum of 2 workshops with the Planning and Zoning Commission and or Board of Supervisors for the purpose of becoming further educated on the issues and topics related to utility scale wind energy development and battery storage. So these would be sessions, not public hearings, but basically workshop sessions with either of those bodies to discuss the various aspects to the ordinance amendment.
When you say a maximum of 2 with the Planning and Zoning Commission and or the Board of Supervisors, are you talking 2 with each board, the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of Supervisors?
It could be designed either way there, Mark. So this contract is designed to be a little flexible in that regard, but it'd just be 2 base sessions. So each one that I would attend and or prepare information for. And those are at a cost of $300 each, because those would cost or have preparation in advance and things like that.
And so, John, if the contract calls for a maximum of 2, but you said there's flexibility, so, if either the Planning and Zoning Commission or the Board of Supervisors wanted more than that, you're available to do that at an additional cost?
Yes, so in the paragraph just following those items, there's some additional flexibility built in where the county can request additional listening sessions or workshops as you desire. So that way we don't have to go through a whole new contract, that sort of thing. We could even set the base levels of items 6 and 7 at lesser amounts if you prefer. So we could amend this contract if desired to start at a less amount of listening sessions or workshops or no, and you can decide amongst yourselves how many you would like. But so there's some flexibility designed in the proposed contract.
All right, I understand that.
So essentially the solar one contract is identical other than the type of use for the amendment of the zoning ordinance. You could do those together, or alternatively, we could do the wind ordinance and battery storage first, just execute it now, and we could update the solar contract based on what we learned from the first process, if you would like. So that's another option you could consider. So you don't have to execute them both at the same time. That's really up to you.
There were a couple other sections in the contract you didn't refer to. Could you talk about sections 6 and 7, please?
6 and 7. I got section 6 is just if we need to prepare copies of the amendment for you. And that lists like how many we would print for you, and additional copies if necessary. I would actually bring attention to section 3, where it says meetings. So during this would be akin to items 1 through 5 in the scope of services section. There may be additional meetings I have to have with staff or the Board of Supervisors to update you with progress of the amendment as we go through it. So we may have additional meetings where I attend at no additional cost. That's just covered on the base 2000 for the regular zoning ordinance amendment. So there's that as well. Section 7 is if you need additional support services, if say something is inaccurate in the final draft that you adopt, so if we need to follow up with you, or at a later time if you desire additional amendments to the ordinance, we could do that at a $60 per hour hourly basis for further amendments.
All right, that's the agreement. Comments from members of the board about this agreement specifically. Do you think it contains everything that we need? And do you see any additional considerations? There are essentially 2 different agreements for a similar cost. And Don has actually suggested and recommended that we approve the wind energy and battery storage agreement first. That's the one that is certainly the most pressing issue. I don't believe there's a solar company that's interested in developing right now in Floyd County. Certainly we have 2 wind turbine companies that are. And so it makes sense to me to have focus on one at a time. They're 2 separate issues. Many have the same type of situations regarding setbacks and a lot of other things, but it seems to make sense that we do one at a time and start with the wind turbine and battery storage portion of this first.
I would agree with that. That's seems to be the focus right now is the wind and battery.
One thing I didn't see in here, John, is this isn't any time specific. We talked in the past about how long this might take per agreement, and I think you said from 3 to 6 months, or perhaps more, depending on it. If we got to work on this sooner rather than later, how long do you think this could take?
I purposely, so typically NIACOG, we do a lump sum billing upon completion of the amendment. So just keep that in mind. The estimated time would be between 3 and 6 months, and that is going to be dependent on how many listening sessions the county desires, workshops the county desires. The more you add, the more time that obviously takes. And then another factor that can shorten or increase time is if you like the first draft we come up with, and we take it to hearing right away, it goes quicker. But if you want a lot of revisions during the process, that can take longer. So, but we'll be talking along the way. So it's going to be highly variable in that regard.
If the county approved either of these agreements today, does it require a approval by the NIACOG executive director, or is this, once we sign it, will this be signed by Myrtle Nelson and we could get started?
Essentially, Myrtle's already reviewed this proposed contract, and once you give approval for your chair to sign, Myrtle will sign, and we can begin from there. One thing I would also caution is if you decide to do a moratorium, I would recommend it coincides with the timing of the amendment.
We're going to be talking about moratorium in the next item agenda. We're going to be discussing that at some length, and I appreciate the recommendation on that, because I agree. One of the requirements in any moratorium that would be considered would be a timing and how long the moratorium would be in effect. So tried to provide a pretty thorough overview of what's in these agreements and how much the services they're providing at what cost. And so are there further questions just regarding either of these agreements that you might have?
We're not gonna do the solar.
Up to the board, whatever you want to decide. The way the resolution is written, it allows for a motion to be made accepting the resolution with either or both of these two agreements in it. It's simply a matter of, you want to do one, you want to do both. Which one do you want to do first? If there aren't any questions regarding the agreements from NIACOG, I'll move on a little bit more to what's in this resolution. And you've got a copy in front of it. As I mentioned, it's got a lot of intent language. We've taken into consideration the concerns, the requests of both the turbine companies and signers of the petition. I really don't need to read all of this. I can. It was drafted to ensure that everybody comes to the table and everybody gets a voice in this. And it was also drafted to ensure that everything is done in a timely, expeditious, thorough, transparent, and open to the public review and amendment of the ordinance, which I think is very important. open up the floor for Richard for some more discussion about this resolution. In addition to choosing if the board wants to work with one agreement or both agreements at this time, there also is language at the end that states, be it further resolved that the Planning and Zoning Commission shall comply with Iowa Code Chapter 21, the Iowa Opens Meeting Law, during all meetings regarding amending the ordinance pertaining to renewable energy projects, including all listening sessions, workshops, and public hearings. And whereas the chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission or the zoning administrator shall not impose any requirement that all members of the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of Adjustment be present to schedule and or conduct business at any meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I can talk more of that, why I included that in this resolution, if you'd like.
I guess on the last two paragraphs, I'm wondering, it's already code that they have to follow anyway, right? Open meetings law, sunshine law.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Does it need to be in there?
I think so. There has been certainly past precedents where the Planning and Zoning Commission did not follow the opens meeting law regarding a previous hearing, a previous meeting of the board. So, although it is required, I don't think there's anything that prevents the Board of Supervisors from including it in this meeting. I think it's important. The letter paragraph regarding including that the chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission or the zoning administrator shall not impose any requirement that all members of the Planning and Zoning Commission are present at a meeting is in there because, in fact, that was required during the discussion and what led up to the one workshop meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. So I'll give you a little review of that. It was back on April 7th when the county's legal counsel on pipeline matters, Tim Whipple, sent the draft ordinance on carbon pipeline to the administrator of the Planning and Zoning Commission. And he asked that they keep them informed and they're willing to attend any meetings of the commission at any time. It was on April 11th when the chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission, Dean Jaden, stated in this email to all the members of the Planning and Zoning Commission and all the members of the Board of Adjustment that, and I quote, Jeff Sherman, our administrator, felt it was important to include both the Board of Adjustment and the Planning and Zoning Board in review and determination of the ordinance. Concerning dates and times regarding workshop meetings, Jeff and I will coordinate with all of you, Board of Adjustment, Planning and Zoning Commission, possible dates. This timeline will be controlled by our joint commissions and not the Board of Supervisors, unquote. I received a copy of that communication, and on April 21st, I sent back to Jeff and Jennifer a request that they keep us informed of all the communication that they hear back from those 10 members of the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of Adjustment regarding setting this date. And so I have a complete file of how long that took to get that initial meeting in progress. Well, it took Jeff and Dean 64 days to schedule the only workshop meeting on the carbon pipeline ordinance on June 13th. I have copies of numerous emails that clearly show that requirement that all that was imposed by Jeff and Dean, that all members of the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of Adjustment be present at the zoning commission meetings, delayed the process significantly. This has been a topic of this before, but numerous occasions. Finally, on July 24th, 98 days after the ordinance was sent to Jeff Sherman, this board passed a motion suspending further consideration of the pipeline ordinance. And by that time, thousands of ARPA dollars had been spent working on the proposed ordinance, and it never got to a public hearing by the zoning commission for a recommendation to the board. I believe we need to learn from that failed experience. I'm sure you know by now the adoption of an updated wind and or solar ordinance could be a little controversial too. But I believe the first step to addressing the issue, an update to the county ordinance, is by eliminating any barriers to get the process started. I don't believe there's any reason why the initial listening session shouldn't be held during the month of November. And another listening session, or perhaps a workshop meeting of the zoning commission, could be scheduled before the end of the year. And that's why I included the language in the resolution stating that they shall not impose this requirement that all the members of Planning and Zoning and Board of Adjustment be in attendance to start this process. It clearly delayed it. And finally, a quorum is all that's required to schedule a meeting according to the Iowa Open Meeting Law. By requiring that all 10 members, it makes the process hard. I think it's important to get this moving, and that's why I've included it in there. I think we're fully within our abilities to make that requirement on the Planning and Zoning Board, that they not have everyone at a meeting to get started. It's hard. So that's why it's in there. Again, it certainly says the chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission or the zoning administrator shall not impose any requirement that all members of the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of Adjustment be present to schedule and or conduct business at a meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Any questions, other questions?
For clarification, does, so this resolution, 42-23, Inver Energy, for instance, and NextEra, will certainly be a lot at the meetings if they choose to be. Are they having a spot at the table, so to speak, or are they?
Well, as we're kind of proposing this, they're welcome to come to a listening session.
Okay.
And they'll be given the appropriate amount of time, not like 3 minutes, to present their case.
Yep.
What should be included.
Yep.
They thought about this a great deal. They're not looking at this from square one. They've already got some things in mind that they'd like to have us consider in a proposed ordinance. So it's fair that they're given that opportunity.
I think it's fair too.
And they're welcome to come to any public meeting and have public comment at any time regarding that.
Mm-hmm.
But the listening sessions would be specifically proposed to give them a little more time to tell us and the Planning and Zoning Commission what they believe should be included. No, they don't get a vote, or they're at the table, but they're, they're part of the process. Yes, Chair.
I have a question on the fees. Is that a one-time fee thing, or is this an annual fee that will be facing on the NICOG board?
One time.
One time.
Does give us some flexibility on the number of meetings or something like that, but
If we do them both at the same time, if we do wind and solar, it'd be one fee. if we split them up, it would be another fee for solar later, right, Mark?
Yeah, if you approve one agreement, it's a $2,000 base fee plus services for additional meetings, essentially for either or both. Depending on what the board would like to do, you can make a motion to approve, for instance, as been discussed, the utility wind update with the battery storage first, and at some other time later down the line, we could approve a separate motion to approve the solar. I think that's a good idea because it allows, what if you learn something from the first process and you want to change it? You've already got an agreement in place if you agree them both.
So there would be another $2,000 charge for solar if we did it later. Right?
Yes.
It could be two.
Yeah, what the resolution is calling for is to do both eventually, but it gives you the option to do one initially and one later. Yeah.
I don't think the intent is that if you do solar and wind at the same time, you're only paying one $2,000 bill. Paying two $2,000.
Yeah, one for each project.
Yeah, Chair recognizes Boyd Campbell.
I can appreciate all the work you spent on doing this resolution, but I'm wondering if maybe we should include at the same time something more strongly about, having the moratorium along with it. I think we've excluded that. And I think it would just be more fair, equitable, for the people that perhaps want to see more information put out by the energy companies, not calling disinformation on their part, but the lack of information that a lot of our citizens in this county, I think, sorely need. And going forward, I think that would be good to perhaps put into this resolution that, and going forward, and unless perhaps the energy companies would like to, all the contracts up to now, declare them null and void, and we start over at square one, where I think we should have in the first place, because we just didn't have an ordinance. So that's just my thought.
I appreciate that, and if you recall from last week's meeting, we were tasked to develop a resolution that included the agreements and also to consider a moratorium. And I'm not saying that won't happen. In fact, I'm committed to saying it is going to be considered and there will be a vote by this board on it. And I'll repeat that now. It is actually the next item on our agenda to talk about with the county attorney what needs to be included in that. And so what I'm saying is that's going to happen. There will be a moratorium language that will be drafted and considered by the board at a future meeting, perhaps as soon as next week. And that's our next item for discussion. We just didn't get it all done. It would have been nice if we could have written that and considered any possible moratorium language at today's meeting. It just didn't happen. There was a lot of stuff going back and forth and we didn't get it, but I'm committed to the fact that we're going to talk about it in the next agenda item, and it will be on a future agenda so everyone knows where this board stands on that.
So that will, if we consider moratorium, that will be added then? I mean, it seems like it's probably just one, look, maybe we should have had the moratorium discussed first and then the resolution, but it isn't set up that way. But, so you're saying that we probably won't talk about the moratorium for how long then, or
We're gonna talk about the moratorium immediately after consideration of this
a
item
vote?
today.
Okay,
We're
we're
gonna
gonna
talk
vote on
about-
the resolution first,
Right.
and then the moratorium at next week, then.
No, soon as we
Well,
decide,
the vote, I'm
as soon as
saying.
there's a review and action on the resolution, which sets into motion the NIACOG, agreement.
Okay.
And we can get started with that. They're a little bit separate, although certainly in language that's in a moratorium, we talk about, you know, the time-sensitive nature of it. The drafts that we have reviewed from other counties, and we'll be talking about that in a minute, are both time-sensitive and task-specific. What is it what's included in the moratorium and how long would it be in effect? So I'm committed that, well, we're gonna have that discussion. We're gonna have it, and you're gonna have a moratorium language before this board. I can't say if it's gonna happen next week. I can't see why it wouldn't. I think this is something that we can discuss, but that's why it's a little separate. It's kind of the way couldn't get it all done. It wasn't staged that way. It wasn't planned that way, but this gets the process started. And we'll talk more about that moratorium in just a few minutes.
Could I also clarify, Mark?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead, John.
So this resolution before the board is simply just to decide whether to enter into services or have NIACOG provide services and enter into contract with NIACOG for those services. The moratorium is, if the county decides to put one in place, is that's separate, but it can be done timing wise in conjunction with the process of amending the ordinance. So they're separate considerations, but obviously very linked.
Yeah, I think I understood what you said. And please be assured, any moratorium language is going to refer to this update of the zoning ordinance. I mean, it's gonna have that in it. I mean, that's what the moratoriums that all of them that I read go talk about. You know, what is the specific task that you're doing and how long is it to, what's the time period? And most of those moratoriums have language in them that would allow you to amend them to extend that moratorium if you don't get this process done. So it's not like it's gonna get issued, it's gonna get discussed, it's gonna get brought up. And we'll start that in minutes. Any other questions, comments from anyone regarding the resolution?
Mark,
Yes. Yeah.
this is Candy.
Candy?
Yes, Candy Brandall Larson. So
Okay.
it might be a question for John, but in the agreement, under scope of services, number 7, the workshops, is that something that is just for the Board of Supervisors and Planning and Zoning, or can citizens attend those as well?
So they would be public meetings, so citizens can absolutely attend. But we wouldn't be taking public comment. It'd be specifically for the purpose of education.
Of learning.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And then, so would those happen first, or would the public meetings, listening sessions happen first?
My proposed process would be the listening session first.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Listening sessions first. So taking comment from the public first.
Okay. So my only thought was, the education thing might be more thought provoking and then give us more things to have opinions on. We like maybe the general public needs to learn some things before the listening sessions.
Okay. Yeah, so it doesn't like dictate an order in that contract. So that's kind of part of why it's so flexible.
Mhm.
So once, the board may decide to enter into contract with Nyakog, we'll discuss like order of operations, so to speak, how we may want to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Well, thanks for that comment, Candy. I kind of like that idea. We've already had a couple of those listening post sessions at past board of supervisors meetings where people come in and they tell us their concerns about wind turbines, and we hear from the wind turbine companies about their requests. I mean, that's not a bad idea, but I guess we could further consider it. There's no, one has to be before the other. Chair recognizes Bob Keppel.
11 or 12 years ago, when you had it installed, you guys, was there that much resentment and opposition to you run into when you put them in? County?
No, I don't believe so.
What's the way opposing something's gonna help our town?
Well, that's kind of depends on what side of the fence you're on. Certainly I think we're all in pretty much agreement that we need to update this ordinance. We need to take a look at it. I agree to that. I think the renewable energy companies would agree to that. And most of our citizens agree to that prospect. Things are different. The industry is a little different. But Bob, you bring up a topic that I want to address, because I did receive an email from a person, and I called her back. I'm gonna go back and get to that. She sent the board an email, and I responded to her Sunday with a phone call. Her name is Janice Skusker, and she asked questions for the Board of Supervisors meeting Monday. And she talked about moratorium and thank you for your time to review the following questions and concerns I have prior to your vote on the moratorium on wind energy. We're not voting on a moratorium on wind energy today. It's not on our agenda, but she asked some questions in there that were pertinent. For transparency's sake, I think each supervisor should state if they currently have a wind turbine on their land and how many. And so I have an interest in property that contains 6 of the Mid-American wind turbines. When I consulted with County Attorney Todd Pritchard about if that constituted a conflict of interest of me voting on this, he told me no, because Mid-American is not one of the renewable energy companies that is proposing any addition to their footprint in Charles City. And any of the property that I have an ownership interest in is not in the Invenergy or Next Era footprint. Want to make it clear? Yes, I have a partial ownership income, ownership in 6 of the current Mid-American wind turbines. I also have a personal opinion on why that is a good thing, but don't need to get into that now. I would agree with you, but I did want to address that issue. And so she actually asked, I think each supervisor should state that they currently have a wind turbine on their land and how many. She asked that question of both of you.
Well, my reply would be it's all public record, and I'm not gonna get into what I have on my property or interest in property. I think that just opens up a box for future things that everybody's gonna wanna ask. What does each supervisor have? So it is all public record, and it can be looked up, so.
We need a resolution, a motion for this resolution 4223, correct, Mark?
Yes, we need a motion and the resolution, by the way, it also states in the resolution that we're going to pay for the services that NIACOG provides with ARPA dollars. We discussed that at our last meeting. And so we do need a resolution, and the resolution should be specific if we're going to do wind and battery first. We'd only do that and check that first box.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 4223 for wind and battery storage and pay for expenses with ARPA funds.
I would be checking the first box.
Sort of check in the first box.
Yep, I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a motion by Supervisor Kiefer, seconded by Supervisor Jorgensen to approve resolution 42-23 and approve the agreement with North Iowa Area Council of Governments pertaining to the amending of the Floyd County ordinance for utility scale wind development battery storage and related sections of the ordinance in accordance with Iowa Code Chapter 335 County Zoning. Payment for the agreement with NIACOG shall be from American Rescue Plan Act funds. Further discussion, any comment from anyone at the meeting or anyone listening on the conference call-in line? Hearing none, those in favor of the resolution, Auditor Carr, would you call the roll?
Kiefer,
Aye.
Jorgensen,
Aye.
Aye. There's affirmative votes of all three voting aye. Resolution 42-23 is adopted. Moving on to agenda item 9, discussion with the county attorney regarding requirements for a moratorium on utilities scale wind and solar energy and battery storage projects. We talked a little bit about this already, Todd, but glad you're here. You've been sent several of these moratorium drafts or resolutions and ordinance that have other counties have passed. What kind of research, what is your recommendation to the board?
So I'm gonna start completely off topic.
Okay.
Earlier agenda item with the opioid discussion. I would probably not characterize that we don't have a pandemic or an epidemic here, so I wouldn't say that. We don't have a lot of deaths for a small county, but I do review all the autopsy deaths that come through. And when there's an autopsy, I get a report. And we've had we've had a few people who have died from fentanyl. Doesn't make the paper. They'll always see it in obituaries or things like that. But one is too many. So appreciate the efforts. We are a very willing partner in that discussion. So I will require, there's a lot we would like to do. If you had unlimited money, but any money that we can do, whether it's public awareness or access to resources, whatever, I'm all on board. Second thing, not quite so off topic. I like the discussion about the sunshine laws, open records. I think, it is good that this is on the table as boards, supervisors, everyone who is in county government and government, whether it's city, county, state, or federal, have these discussions. We have a training, I think we're going to hopefully schedule sometime in December with the state ethics board. Is that right? Just the ethics board, yeah.
Yeah, we'll be taking that up.
Ethics board, they're the ones charged with dealing with these types of issues, and I think it just kind of helps if everybody understands the rules. It's like the question from the woman online, about like the workshops and things like that. The more the public and the more that people understand this process, the better it is and the better we have, I think, decision-making, because we just have a process. And so I do appreciate the focus and then just keeping that always in the back of the mind of people who serve on our boards. And so the public understands the process too. It is published, it is in code. With that, with those two asides, thank you, Mark, for, you sent me, I received through Mark and Gloria, a number of other moratoriums from other counties. I think Franklin, Worth, Lynn, Cerro Gordo. There's different counties have taken a different approach. I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong way to do it. I would recommend that we do an ordinance over a resolution, but I'm perfectly comfortable with the resolution as well. Worth and Franklin did resolutions. This is perfectly fine. I know that Cerro Gordo did an ordinance, and I think Lynn County did, well, they did a resolution too. I think either path is perfectly acceptable. You know, you really need two things in your ordinance to make it withstand or have it to be able to withstand what I call court scrutiny or challenge. And that would be one, a factual or a rational basis for why you are doing it. You know, I think Cerro Gordo laid out some very good reasoning, and these are kind of the whereas paragraphs. And so, you know, I think one, this board has the authority and the jurisdiction and, quite frankly, the responsibility to govern zoning and planning and regulate land use in Floyd County. Two, you have other responsibilities in regards to like communications. Cerro Gordo cited commercial microwave, radio, and television towers. Likewise, we have those concerns too, and you know, making sure that we don't put up windmills that interfere with communication systems in the county. And I think three, the public interest in seeing something done. And then the second component is your therefore, your resolved portion of the ordinance or resolution. To me, less is more. Keep it simple. The KISS method, keep it simple, soldier. And that you're going to make an ordinance, you're going to repeal anything that is in conflict with the moratorium ordinance or resolution. Have a severability clause, and then I would recommend what I've seen in the other counties, not all, but in the other counties that I have, is that they repealed it. So they basically gave themselves, I think, 15 or 18 months to do what they're going to do, and then the moratorium is lifted. Those are kind of my opening thoughts. Keep it simple. I think you've got some good samples here. Any of them, honestly, they all kind of follow the same format, so there's no real trick here. That's it.
If we would do a moratorium for 12 months and planning and zoning would be done in 6 or 7 months, it could be lifted early or just.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Or, okay.
Yeah. I would, if you're gonna do a moratorium, you know, you're really basically saying, right, we're gonna do a pause and we're going to, you know, we're gonna go through this process of maybe amending and relooking at our ordinance or creating an ordinance. I would give yourself an estimate of, you know, how long is that gonna take, and maybe round up, right? So, you know, the other counties, I think I saw 15 months, maybe give yourself 12 months. But yeah, if we get through this process in 8 months, there's no reason we can't lift it earlier. But I'm aware of it.
You brought up a good point too. We're updating our 9/11 communication system in the county.
Right.
And I didn't consider the fact that maybe terms could interfere with that. Can they, or?
I'm just a lawyer, Dennis.
Well, maybe
I mean, I would, my common sense would be possible, right? It is possible, but, and that was one of the grounds, like in the whereas for Cerro Gordo.
Okay, Hey, I can do some follow-up on that, but it got my attention when you mentioned.
Yeah.
Hey, Dennis. This is John from IACOG.
Hello? Is there
John,
anyone-
you'll have to speak up a bit.
Who
Oh,
is that?
sure. Sure, I was just, you're talking about, radio communications. So as part of, like an approval or review that a wind farm has to go through, they have to, do a study of, whether, wind turbines might block certain radio communications. So they have to position their turbine location so they don't. So they have to go through an FCC approval for that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Chair recognizes Isaac,
Isaac Lampa, from Invenergy, just to add to the discussion here too, just as an example from the wind industry, as an expert here, the Chickasaw project we had that we provided the development agreement to you had an inclusion of the FCC communication study that we conduct on our projects. And there's also Fresnel zones that we avoid as well. My engineers would need to speak a little bit more in detail to those, but we do those diligence, and that was included in the development agreement as a requirement that we provided to you. So.
Todd, you mentioned that you prefer doing it by ordinance, but you thought a resolution would work as well.
Yeah.
As far as a timeline, there is a difference in that because a resolution could conceivably be drafted this week and before the board at next week's meeting, whereas an ordinance would take process.
Moratorium.
An ordinance or a resolution on a moratorium.
Okay.
Either or, the timeline is going to be quite considerably different.
Yeah. I did notice on the Saragoros, they waived the second and third reading, so, but yeah, I mean, you're looking at a little bit more time. That's, if you want to go to resolution, I don't see an issue.
Yes.
That was my question, the difference between a resolution and an ordinance. Just the fact that the ordinance takes more listening time. I mean,
yeah.
Well, there's different levels of actions that the board can take. There's a simple motion, there's a resolution, or we can essentially write a law, which is an ordinance.
Okay.
And so there are three different kind of processes. And the ordinance is the longest one because it would be hard pressed to come up with a ordinance language that nobody's seen for next meeting and think that we were going to pass it at the next meeting. I've already kind of expressed my concerns regarding pass on one reading only an ordinance, especially something that's this important. I would want a little more input on that. That's just my opinion. But
to carry this, the same weight, basically, on.
Well, so what the resolution we're doing is we're basically saying that the Board of Supervisors is directing through a resolution that no permit shall issue. See, they're telling an entity, that would be basically what Jeff Sherman, you shall not issue a permit, and that effectively stops any construction, right? If we do it in an ordinance, we're saying the same thing, but we're saying it's just not legal right now. So Jeff would be technically breaking the law. Both get us two ways to skin a cat. Yeah. Okay.
well, this is a good discussion. But it's not a review action item that board's gonna need help drafting either one of them. And so we'd ask for your help to do that, Todd, because that's.
Yeah, there's no real need to reinvent a wheel here. Other counties have done this. There's language here that's very generic and general that applies, so.
How soon do you think you could help draft some language, to present to the board for consideration. That was a concern that been brought up before. I mean, we're kind of taking one step we already have. We're not doing the second step that we were asked, so. Is that as soon as a couple of weeks, next week? What do you think?
Yeah, I think a matter of days or a week or so.
Which would you do, you moratorium, resolution, or ordinance?
Either one, it's probably the resolution is the simplest, most cut dry. Here, I mean, there seems to be a little time consideration here, we'll go with the resolution.
So you said a moratorium is no permits issued and an ordinance is no permit, and it's against the law. What is the resolution in that?
No, the resolution would be that you're gonna resolve that there should be no permit issued.
Okay.
So you're just basically blocking or barring the issuance of any permit.
Until a set timeline.
I guess if all three options carry the same authority, I would be in favor of doing the one that we can do the soonest. That would be a resolution, right?
Sure. Yep.
Yeah, Chair recognizes Isaac from Energy.
Back for Energy here, but as the board and as the county attorney, reviews that language, Energy does request that, we are excluded from that moratorium, or there is language included within the moratorium that excludes our project, just because of the amount of, landowner agreements, 45 plus agreements we have with current landowners, the $3.86 million invested already with our project. And that the, current ordinance that is in place right now, has been landed upon with our project. And so just wanted to, review that with the board.
Maybe someone can answer that. Has Energy applied for a permit?
No, they have not.
They have a pending permit.
Last presentation, I was party to, they say they had approximately 9,000 acres under current easement, and we're seeking about 23,000 acres in the county, and hadn't yet decided where their wind turbines would be located. They were in the process, but far from issuing a permit. Yeah, Chair recognizes Scott Hines.
Yeah, it baffles me to think this is a voluntary program. If you don't want it, you say no. They move over a mile or down the road or a different area. I guess I find it hard to find a reason why we need a moratorium or whatever. It's, I believe one of the gentlemen in this room told us one time in Hog Bones, it was a landowner's land. You should be able to do what you want with it. So if you don't want one, say no. And if you want one, sign up. Pretty simple process.
Yeah, Chair recognizes Floyd Co.
And I am probably that hog guy you're referring to.
Absolutely.
They're in sense, I think they're both two different animals in some way, but
At one
since
stage,
the time that was discussed, the state stepped in and put in some requirements that I think was justifiable and reasonable. Setbacks, you can't build, within so many miles. So I don't think my position is any different. I think that it was all for the protection of the citizenry, and I can't see why this is any different. There are some real reasons that we need to look at this. In the last 3 weeks, there was a fire at Menlo from one of these. that burn soybean stubble underneath it. And, I mean, the fire protection, I don't know if any of the counties around have justifiable enough fire protection. If this happens, think about, the perfect storm perhaps. There's a fire. We have large acreages of corn, soybeans that, are dry. And you get a 40-mile-an-hour wind and you got a fire. I think just 2 years ago, all you had to do is go north of Rudd when a fire got out of control and about burned your place down. It went so fast, jumped so many roads, got into CRPs, nobody could control it. This is why I think we need to be prudent and come up with some real answers in protection. It looks all simple out there, like, oh, if you don't want it, you don't build it. I understand property rights and all this, but there's a lot of people out here that don't own land around these that have absolutely no protection. A landowner can say it, but what about some of the people that have just acreages? So these are some of the common, reasonable, sensible things to take into consideration. We just can't willy-nilly going around and letting everybody do what they want. Okay? And I think, you know.
Okay. Our agenda item is a discussion with the county attorney regarding requirements in a moratorium. Thank you all for your comments. I think you have a final remark.
My final remark would be that Invenergy develops our projects very responsibly, and we've done 15 projects throughout the state of Iowa. And we are willing, we already do a lot of voluntary studies and voluntary setbacks from, you know, things that Boyd and some of the other groups around the county are concerned about. So that is why we're willing to enter into a development agreement as provided to the county attorney and to the county board. If there's any additional restrictions on that copy that I provided to you, that would be, you know, you would like to see, I would, you know, love to consider that, and we'd like to move forward with that as well.
Any further comments from anyone listening on the telephone calling line? I believe County Attorney Pritchard said he could probably have a draft for consideration of a resolution at our next meeting.
When is the next meeting?
Next Monday.
Excuse me, Chair.
13.
Excuse me. This
That'd
is
be our goal. Yeah. Chair recognizes Tom Treharn from Next Era Energy. Tom,
thank you. Appreciate. Yes, thank you, and appreciate your time. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes,
as you consider the moratorium, we would request that the ability to place temporary Met towers be permitted for the study of wind. These are temporary towers, they're not permanent. We work with landowners and we'd go through whatever process is a part of the ordinances now, but we would like the ability to be able to place Met towers in the event. You know, we have folks that want to help us out, and the Met towers are what they're put up, and they allow us to study the wind flows in the area and you know, determine locations for turbines into the future. So just would like that to be considered outside of the moratorium.
All right, thank you for that, Tom. That is included in the Cerro Gordo County moratorium that's drafted by it was written by, approved by ordinance, but that's in there. And that doesn't prevent a renewable energy company from doing more studies on whether or not to make a final decision. to invest in the county. Is that correct? Is that what those Met Towers are really for?
Yes, yep. Yes.
How Sarah Order reads is, applications may continue to be accepted and permits may be issued for any other legally permitted uses, including communications, radio, substations, electrical conversion stations, meteorological towers used for research, or weather conditions or any other public utility structures. So that is the exception.
That would be great. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, I think we've had a good discussion and the board has given some indication to the county attorney on what type of a, how to proceed forward. Is there anything further on this topic issue before I move on to the next?
In Todd's last comment, Sarah has it so that you can issue permits, and that's what you'd like to follow.
No, they have it so they can issue permits for those certain towers.
Oh,
like
okay.
research towers or radio communication towers.
Okay.
They have an exception.
Okay.
So they accept out those types of towers, but they say, no application for special use permit shall be accepted by Cerro Gordo specifically for utility scale wind energy.
Okay.
We're talking utility scale, so we're not talking like someone who's got, like a home use.
All right, so,
I'll see if I can get something together.
all right. All right, we'll try to have something on our agenda for next week regarding the moratorium language. All right. I'm going to skip over item 10 for right now and go to item 11, which is new action regarding approval and disallowances of family farm tax credit applications. Those are in your packet, and here are the hard copies that we received from the county assessor. We've been at this a while. I don't know if Randy Schmidt, our county assessor, is on the line to review these applications for family farm tax credit. Randy, are you listening in? There were 11 new applications for the family farm tax credit and 2 were disallowed. And I was gonna ask,
13 total, 2 of it, with the 13 were disallowed. That's my notes.
okay. 2 were disallowed to 13 total.
13 total.
Got it, yes. The board, that was in your packet, if you had the opportunity to review those family farm tax credit apps.
I did. I'm just finding them again now.
It's another attachment on the, where you see now.
Yep.
There's several of the same names on different applications, right?
There's the first 2, I think, were Demery's.
Demery, and then there was some others too.
At the same address.
Yeah. Jason,
Oh, yes, we were wondering if you were listening in, if there was anything you wanted to inform us about the applications and the disallowance of 2 of them.
Oh, sure.
That's okay.
Here you are.
No, I don't
Sorry.
have any comment
All
unless
right.
you have questions.
I think they just mentioned before you came in, several with the same name and address.
Right.
Demery's, I know, had but I think they were different parcels.
So.
Right, yeah. Sometimes we can get them all in one application. Sometimes they have slightly different ownerships and then the computer just prints them out as separate ones. So it's our software that generates the applications for us. So I know Demery's have several ownerships because some of them, they're being bought on contract. Some of them, like it's a father-son deal. Some I think just the father owns or just the son owns. So it's just multiple ownerships.
what would be the reasons for them not qualifying? There's 2 of those.
You have to have contiguous parcels that are 10 acres or more. And those two parcels are not, they don't qualify because of that. The one is a hog confinement parcel, that is owned as like an island. He doesn't own any property around it. The other one is another hog confinement parcel that his father actually owns, a 16-acre parcel surrounding it. But the Iowa code specifically states it has to be in the same name. So, and I spoke with Jason Demery about both of those, so he's aware.
The 10 acres, probably doesn't include right of ways, or it does, or how does that play in?
It's just, I guess I can't say if it's gross or net, but, it does have to be that the parcel that is contiguous has to be the 10 acres. So you can't have two 5-acre parcels added together to make 10.
Mhm.
The parcel that is contiguous, the smaller parcel doesn't have to be 10 acres, but it's the parcel adjoining it that is using it to make it apply has to be more than 10 acres.
All right, any further questions for Brandy before we consider action on approval or disallowance of the family farm tax credit application?
No.
All right,
I'll make a motion to approve the disallowances, family, or the approvals of the family farm tax credit applications.
To approve 11 and disallow 2.
Yes,
I'll second
approve
that.
11 and disapprove 2.
I'll second.
all right, we have a motion by Supervisor Kiefer, seconded by Supervisor Jorgensen to approve 11 new applications for the family farm tax credit and disapprove 2 applications. Further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion is carried. Next item, discussion regarding Board of Supervisors appointments to the Compensation Board. The Compensation Board is wanting to schedule a meeting again soon. The board has 2 representatives, the Board of Supervisors has 2 representatives on the Compensation Board. Currently, they're Kalen Schlater and Shell Herb. Their terms expire at the end of 2024, is that correct?
2025. June of 25.
June of 2025. Yeah. And so we were asked recently in an email from the auditor's office if the board, because they're all 3 new members, wanted to consider any changes to that, to the makeup of the compensation board.
I don't think so. I mean, they wouldn't take effect anyway until 25, right?
No, they would start, that's why we're holding up on sending notices, because you weren't sure that you wanted to keep these 2. That's why it's on the agenda.
Yeah, I understand that, but I think my misunderstanding was cleared up. I thought these 2 expired this year, and then it was explained to me that they're good until June of 24. Until 20.
Whoever, if you decide you want somebody else, the terms stay the same, June of 25. It's just, since you 3 are new supervisors, I think Amanda's email was, do you want to keep the 2 that you have, or do you want to appoint anyone different for that term?
It's kind of early to appoint somebody different, wouldn't it, right now, 2 years in advance, kind of?
Seems like it, but I think Gloria's saying we can remove them effective immediately almost.
Right. So
And
like
replace them.
Like the county attorney, even though he could have taken Rachel's person that she had appointed or not. So because you're new, you don't have to take, for whatever reason you may or may not want, who's already appointed.
I'm content with leaving them in their positions.
Yeah, I understand it better now, and I'm content too.
As well. So you can send out the notice to both Kalen and Cheryl, but they'll continue to serve as the representative of the Board of Supervisors on the compensation. Okay. All right, thank you. Next item, noting the time and place for a countywide audit, countywide Iowa Sunshine Law training session with Iowa Public Information Board Executive Director Erica Eckley. We've been working with Erica this past week and decided that on Tuesday, December 12th, here in the EOC room at the courthouse from 10 a.m. to noon. We will have a county-wide training on the Iowa Opens Meeting Law, the Sunshine Laws. Erica suggested that we open this up to more than just county appointed boards and commissions, that we include all the cities who have numerous boards that are under, that have to comply with the Sunshine Laws, and I think that's a good idea. So what we're planning is a Zoom meeting where the executive director will present the slides that you've seen at various meetings that you've attended. And she'll be available to answer any questions. There are just a myriad of questions that come up. Is this okay? Can I do this? Can I do that? And so I think it's going to be very beneficial to have the executive director of the Iowa Public Information Board with us. So I'm looking forward to the meeting, and of course we'll get the word out to all the cities in the county, all the boards and commissions that are official governmental entities that have to comply with the open meetings law. So we'll look forward to that in December.
Will that be our duty individually to notify these, or are we gonna send them?
We're gonna be working to make sure that now that she's coming up here and making a trip up here, that we're gonna have as good a turnout as we can.
But to get them notified?
Oh, yeah, we'll notify them.
Is that through the auditor's office?
Yeah,
or?
yes. I'll work with the auditor car. It's not gonna be very hard.
Yeah.
There's a certain list.
Yep.
And the email addresses, make sure they get notified, and so they can come to this meeting.
Okay.
This is at no cost to the county. It's a service that they want to provide, and so we can all, we've had some issues with this, and so it's time to just get someone who knows what this is completely and is able to answer questions. County Attorney Pritchard will be there. He's our local resource. He'll be there at that time, and looking forward to this meeting.
Yeah, I think it's good to set a baseline and move forward.
All right, item 14, noting the Charles City Area Development Corporation audit report. That was in your packet. It was presented at one of the most recent meetings of the Area Development Corporation Board. They got a clean audit review. I represent the board on the board of directors. It was discussed at our meeting recently. Are there any questions from any of the members of this board about the audit provided to the Area Development Corporation?
Kind of question mark.
Yeah, go ahead.
The very last statement, was there something to that they hadn't done this report yet, the very last page of it?
On what page? On page 14?
Yes. Something that the payments hadn't been made for those.
Organization. Are you talking about contingent liability? What's your?
I think this was where revenues that they generated from like renting the land out, that type of thing, were supposed to be paid out in the 12-month period for. I was confused in reading that, what that meant, if that didn't happen and there still isn't a payment made by February 1st, 2023.
That was not discussed at the meeting, but I'll read through it. I'm aware of the agreement between the Area Development Corporation and the City of Charles City. On or before December 31st of each year, commencing to the term, Area Development Corporation calculated amount for remainder amount equal to the difference between the total rent, sales, proceeds, and other income from the development property in the previous 12 months minus the 12 months paid out in the 12 months period for the incidence of ownership cost site certification costs and marketing costs. Development Corporation then remit payment to the city by no later than February first of the next succeeding year, an amount equal to the remainder amount. Calculation of the first remainder amount for various due to the city can take into account site certification costs incurred in the 36 months prior to first. This annual remainder amount is dependent on the positive cash flow. No remainder amount payment was made by February 1st, 2023.
So maybe they didn't get anything over to make the payment? I didn't understand.
That was not discussed at our meeting, and I did not review this portion of the audit until, trying to understand what it says. That, I believe we'll have to ask the auditing firm regarding that question.
I didn't understand.
For some clarification on that, sorry, I cannot. Answer that. How about we note the Area Development Corporation report, and we'll report back after conferring with the auditing firm in regards to your question. All right. Okay, thank you for noting it. We'll follow up on that. Before we get to future agenda item, we've been skipping over review and action regarding Allers County's invoices for professional services. And I want to pull that back up in your packet. Have you received any correspondence back from Melanie in the accounting and auditing firm of Allers and Cooney's in response to the email that you sent to her? I guess you received that on Saturday. Have you gotten anything back from her so far today?
I do not.
Well, the three items that are on our agenda for written action are noting a refund of $901.40, and then paying for services from the American Rescue Plan Fund for Summit Carbon IUB permit proceedings and Navigator IUB proceedings. And in your packet, you have the information, that's the letter that Ann Gloria's and Auditor Carr's notes on that letter regarding how it is that Floyd County would receive a $901.40 check back. I'm adding to it. And that letter is on page 24 of your packet from Melanie Hunter Mark, County Manager at Allers and Cooney. And they did a in-house audit of how all the legal costs and fees were divided between the participating counties in both Navigator and Summit. And so she states that internal audit revealed the work performed between February 20th, 2023 and March 3rd, 23, originally in an invoice, which was dated May 11th, was not split correctly with the other four counties then engaged in the project. It resulted in an overpayment of Floyd County of $901, and so they sent a refund check to correct the error. And upon further looking at this, Auditor Carr noticed that must have been Friday, after I left, after our discussion. And the invoice summary that's in your packet clearly identifies that $901.40 refund as to why that's here. But the invoice that was dated March 31st of 2023 contains services for hours for Tim Whipple that were contained in that invoice that were prior to the time that Floyd County executed an agreement to engage the services of Allers and Cooney. So the question that Auditor Carr raised was why should Floyd County be charged for services prior to the fact that we engaged in work? So that email went out. We haven't received an email back. So in that one, we've noted the refund of $901.40. At this time, I would recommend we don't take any action regarding the $2,714.90 charge for services regarding the Summit Carbon IUB proceedings because of this clarification that we need. I think we could go ahead and take action on the $204.92 for navigator proceedings because they're not included in the questions that Auditor Carr has raised. Gloria, have I presented this accurately?
Yeah, I think that just even on the $900 refund, what I'm not understanding is how many counties are in the group. We've been billed for 7 counties since the one that they did. We originally was 6 counties. And then this refund came back, said there's only 5 counties. And then the bill subsequent to that came for 7 counties. How many counties are in
I thought I remembered 7, but I can't.
Well, that was added at one point in time, because at one point in time,
Right, I think.
it has changed some, but I think there needs to be clarification of when that took place in regards to these invoices. So I'm awaiting some further correspondence from their auditing department at Allers and Cooney before I'm ready to approve the $2,714. I think we just need to hear back as to what that is. So
then that part again is for that overlap of dates for this $2,500 bill, $2,700 bill is that as the overlap of dates that we show we already paid on that March 31st invoice to this, and they've kind of backtracked. If you look at the details of the $2,714 invoice, they've added those March 7th to March 15th.
okay, yeah, let's pull that one up because there's a lot of invoices in here. What page are you working on?
Page 32 in our
All right.
packet. I think it's number 2. It's got number 2 at the bottom of the page, doesn't it?
Yeah, starting at 32, it goes back to the 3/7 to 3/15 that they originally referred to in their audit that was incorrect.
No, that's different dates in the audit. The dates in the audit were the 2nd through the audit was February 20th to March 3rd that they gave us back the $900 on. But
I'm pulling that up.
yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, February 20th to March 3rd was the audit, the $900 that their new invoice that they attached was for 20%, so 5 counties instead of 7 counties, or 6 counties. what it originally was. They did that for 5 instead of 7. But then the next part where I've got the asterisk where it has March 7th. And then that's page 2 and then goes on to page 3 of the March 31st invoice. That's the one that has March 7th to March 15th that we paid for. No refund or anything back on that. And we paid that at 16.66%, so 6 counties. But now on this newest invoice, the October 25th invoice, it's adding those dates at 14.29%, which is 7 counties. But we've already paid that, this invoice for.
I wonder if all the counties are dealing with this invoice.
I would imagine that they are.
If
Well, I
they're
think
if they're catching up. You know,
Well, I think they, yeah, they,
Oh, they're catching that.
I think it would be good to know when other counties were added and the number, so that you can,
right.
checks and balances.
So, my suggestion is until we get clarification, further clarification from this auditing department, we not pay the $2,714.90.
Motion that way.
Yeah, you can either just table it or do it all next week or pay the navigator one if you want, or.
Yeah. Yeah, we were noting the refund. We could pay the navigator one, but we're just not paying the one on the summit proceedings if you like to proceed that way, or just table the whole thing.
How much was the navigator again?
$204.92.
Pay that?
Yeah, let's pay that one. I'll make a motion to pay $204.92 for Navigator IUB proceedings to Ayers Cooney from ARPA funds.
Second.
All right, have a motion by Supervisor Jorgensen, seconded by Supervisor Kiefer to pay for the invoice to Allers and Cooney for $204.92 for Navigators IUB proceedings.
Shouldn't be any more navigator bills from.
I think so.
No. Because the last one was for what? The last,
This one?
the last navigator statement. Counties did, let's see, I can tell you that answer now.
It was October 15th of 2023.
And the reason for that was, yeah, prepare a motion for reconsideration. Because the counties did collectively submit a motion for reconsideration, and then that motion was denied by the Iowa Utilities Board because it was moot, because by that time Navigator had pulled their permit application. So as long as that means, as long as it has been filed, it says attention to Navigator IUB proceedings, prepare motion for reconsideration. As long as that it incurs the cost to file it, that's the only question. I mean, they prepared it, we'll see. That's all, the only thing else that we're doing with Navigator, in my opinion. These are appropriate, good questions that, issues that you've raised. And somehow we missed back in when this was approved, this first one, I'm surprised that, well, I'm surprised that either one of us didn't see that.
The December.
The December, if that was the case, that was, we didn't see that apparently.
It seemed like maybe I brought something up and Tim had some explanation, but
Okay, we'll see. So that's what we're asking, for clarification, and we'll get the email back. Okay.
Yep.
All right, so we have motion. Did we vote on it?
Yeah.
We haven't. Thank you. Those
Did
in
the motion
favor?
include ARPA? I missed that.
Yes,
You
it
did,
does.
okay, all right.
All right. Those in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Aye. Motion carried. All right. So on the check on this audit for the Area Development Corporation, we're going to have further consideration of when we hear back from Allers and Cooney regarding their internal auditing department's answer to our questions, future agenda items. What do you think of that idea that Candy Brando had, having a educational workshop before we have a listening session?
Can't find anything wrong with it, I guess, and.
In a sense, what I'm thinking is gonna happen, if we call for a listening session, what do you think we'll hear? We're gonna hear what we hear in every board meeting for the past 5 meetings, and it got into that again today. You know, we're gonna have, this group's gonna say one thing, this group's gonna say anything. I'd kinda like to start off, and I think it's a good idea, start off with what's the scope of all of this? And by the way, that was one of the things that was deleted from the resolution, was a recommendation by the board of a number of things that we'd like to have the Planning and Zoning Commission consider. We just didn't put that in there. But I think that's kind of appropriate. So that might be a good start. I just want to get this process started.
It wouldn't necessarily be in the resolution, though.
Oh, no, it's just, we're thinking about having a meeting, where we could have an educational meeting about the NIACOG to explain all the various issues that are out there.
NIACOG seems to be a bit more neutral than.
Yeah, they don't have any skin in the game.
Yeah.
No,
So I think that would be.
But that's the thought, and we can consider that, but I think the goal is to start moving, not wait.
And we need to get going.
We need to get going, regardless of how this resolution for moratorium or ordinance develops. I mean, I want to get this process moving along. Okay, I'll give that some more thought, talk to more to John. Is there anything else? Future agenda? Yes.
Just to catch up from the last meeting, the mayors have been notified about the November 13th meeting for the 2080 agreement.
And were the mayors were they sent the letter that?
I did include it.
Good,
I figured
so
it was
they
going to
know
be-
that what
Yep.
that discussion was about.
Yep, they're
All right,
talking about the letter from Travis.
That's gonna be on the 13th, right?
13th, yep. And then, Elder Bridge Agency wants to come in, they started a little earlier with their fiscal year 25 budget planning, they would like to come on the 13th.
No, that's a little early, isn't it? To start budget planning already on the 13th?
They've got a lot of counties that they have to go to and to meet their meeting dates. It's hard for them to get them all scheduled, because usually supervisors meet Mondays or Tuesdays, and that's just when we're good, can let them know otherwise.
You kind of indicated that this could be a really busy meeting, right?
It is, and I don't know if they're going to another county ahead of us, but they couldn't be here until 10:30. Which, that's the time we've got set for our canvas, our first year canvas.
Just to review those 2-tier canvases, are they scheduled for what time?
13th at 10:30 was Jim's motion for both of those.
Okay, for both.
The 13th and the 20th.
Okay.
They don't take very long. I can.
Well, I'm
pick another day
we can just stick around a little longer. It helps their schedule. I'm just thinking. Okay.
Then, need to get the list to you for appointments to various boards and commissions that have terms ending December 2023. Just an FYI that Margaret and I, we shot some emails around from Dawn regarding medical examiner.
Yeah.
And they're going to have, they're planning on the 20th with the Ankeny medical examiner.
Okay.
His position is he's not doing autopsies, he's administrative for autopsies, planning on it.
I was gonna bring up the medical examiner too, but I'm glad you did, Gloria.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Anything else?
no,
All right, I think we've got it all taken care of. Item 16. Adjournment.
motion to adjourn.
A second.
All right, then moved by Supervisor George and second by Kiefer to adjourn. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, we are adjourned.